Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Inspired Action, where we dive into the most pressing leadership challenges and hope to inspire you to take a more coach-centered and people-focused approach to leadership. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and it's time to get started with our three amazing guests for today. Welcome back, everybody, to the newest episode of Inspired Action. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and I'm here with three more amazing guests today to answer this question. What small but consistent actions can leaders take to build more human-centered leadership? So I am fired up about our guests today. Let me jump right into some quick introductions before we get started. Starting with Deirdre Breakenridge. Deirdre is the CEO of Pure Performance. She's a 7-time published business book author, speaker coach, and communications trainer. She's certified as a cognitive behavior therapy life coach, neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner, and micro-expressions trainer. Over 35 years in communications, she's worked with senior leaders at Fortune 500 companies and is a career-long storyteller and educator. Secondly, we have Sean Bray, co-creator of HypnoBiz in a Box, all-in-one platform designed for hypnotists, and vice president of the Hypnosis Education Association. Over 30 years of experience in business strategy, creative production, and so forth. Sean has helped hundreds of business professionals simplify systems, attract clients, and build reliable income streams. And last but not least, Dr. Stan Ward, founder of Influence Coaching, executive coach, author, and keynote speaker. Stan helps leaders in high-stakes roles like doctors, lawyers, and mission-driven executives beat burnout, manage stress, and resolve conflict so they can lead well and live well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for being here. Let's jump right into the mix. Deirdre, we're going to start you off right out of the gate with this question. What small, consistent actions can leaders take to build more human-centered leadership?
Well, thank you, Kyle. First off, human-centered means getting a better understanding of the people around you. And in order to do that, number one, you have to be fully present. And sometimes I wonder if leaders are taking just the simple step to breathe properly, to breathe in your diaphragm, turning on your parasympathetic nervous system to make your brain calm so you can be focused and with the people, fully present. Then you move to mindful listening. And this goes beyond active listening. It's not just hearing the words, nodding your head, paraphrasing back, asking good questions. It's a SEER model of listening, which means sensing, interpreting, then evaluating, and finally responding. And when you're sensing information, when somebody's talking, you're keying into their emotions through their voice, the sound, pitch, tone, speed, cadence. And when you can do that, you're going to pinpoint emotions and have better connections. And then finally, it's reading the signals and the cues of the people around you, because the body says a lot about how people are feeling. And I never know what somebody's thinking, but I look for clusters of comfort or discomfort. And when you see those clusters of discomfort, it could be eye barriers, a head barrier, chin down, body tucked in, hands adapting, touching the face, shoulder pops. When they come together, that says that somebody's having a difficult time. And then as a leader, you can step back and change the way that you come across, change the sound of your voice, the words that you use, and open up your body language. So I just believe that these steps, if you practice them, you will get a much better understanding of the people around you.
I love it. Got just so much awareness in that, right? I had somebody tell me one time that some of the best leaders aren't the loudest, but the ones that notice. And when you talk about, especially the piece you're talking about in the listening, is just really being present. That's so powerful. Thank you so much for that. Sean, what would you add to that as it relates to small, consistent actions leaders can take to build more human-centered leadership?
Well, when I was contemplating this question, I came up with a list. And out of that list, a couple of them jumped out. And then this morning, as I'm doing my morning routine, one of them really sounded to me. And it was, remember that you are human and to take care of you so that you can be fully present, So get up in the morning, drink lots of water, get out into the sunshine, take care of yourself, have a routine in the morning and model that so that the people around you don't have to even question about your health. They can just see that you're healthy. They can feel that you're healthy. And that lets people know that you're more there. You're in a moment. Now I'm going to go through my list because I think these are important also. Hold space before you hold court. Open up the space, let people know. And I know why Kyle's saying that, because we've been learning a lot in a mastermind from a couple that have mastered this. And it's really important to, let people know that they're in a safe space, no matter where it is, whether you're, collabing with somebody or dealing with a client or whatever it is, let them know that the space they're in is open, that it's safe, and then validate the communication that's going on and let them know that, find out if they're done and then wrap up the space. Tune the room like you're tuning an instrument. I'm a musician, so I've got some of these references here. Speak like someone's healing depends on it. The words that come out of your mouth do more than that moment. They ripple out and they have a grand effect. You may not see it in that moment, but you will eventually feel and see it come back around to you. Model radical responsibility, not performance. Invite, now this is a really important one. Invite the unseen voices into the conversation. Bring them to the front row. Those whispers that you hear in your head that have those ideas that whisper to you, you know how important they are. There are people around you, they may be whispering. They may be the ones that have the innovation, that have the next solution, that have something grand to offer. So, and when I say listen, there's a difference between hearing something like what Deirdre said and listening. Hearing is when the mechanical stuff is going on, the sound waves hit the follicles in your ear, the eardrum sounds with the hammer. Once it gets into your brain, that's when you start listening. You interpret, you give that meaning. So when somebody is speaking, the best thing you can do is ask a question, listen, validate, and then ask another question. Just remain curious. I would say that's the main thing that percolated up was curiosity across the board.
I love it. So much gold in that, Sean. Stan, let's jump over to you. I'm super curious from your perspective. Small, consistent actions leaders can take to build more human-centered leadership.
Yeah, I want to, I think, highlight, summarize the things that Sean and Deirdre have shared, because it's all spot on. And at root, this is about recognizing that we're not leading machines, and the people we're working with are not just a brain in a box. And I think especially in white collar settings, it can be easy to fall into that way of working with people. And so there's two pieces to that. One is to recognize and allow space for the physical, and then to recognize, allow space for the emotional components. And you've already highlighted a lot of things in this conversation, ways you can do that. So I would just add two more to that list. As you're meeting with folks, when it comes to recognizing the emotional, one of the best things I can recommend is allow some space to celebrate successes. It's so easy in our metrics to get caught up in where we may be falling short, but any place that a person can say, hey, this is something I have done well, and I want to just highlight it. Or, here's a place where I have learned some things from what didn't go so well, and here's how I'm applying it. Helping folks see that successes don't have to be big achievements, but there are daily successes we experience. And then that's going to get some of those happy feeling chemicals going through the body, right? Instead of the stress chemicals that tend to course through us in the workspace. And then on the physical side, gosh, I mean, even now I'm sitting here at the computer and I can just feel myself all kind of hunching up, right? So allow a moment, whether it's that parasympathetic nervous system reset with the breathing, again, some sort of maybe grounding exercise, simply allowing folks to shrug their shoulders a little bit, maybe stand up and stretch. But anything you can do to, especially with all our Zoom meetings, back-to-back meetings, things like that, allow people to get out of that tension so they're able to come into these meetings a little more open, more in that rational part of the brain, a little less in the reactive part of the brain. Those are going to be a gift to the folks you lead.
Yeah, I love that. And Stan, it reminds me, I was at a speaking engagement last week, and one of the women was speaking on that, the nervous system. And she said, almost all mammals have a release in some form of shaking, except humans, right? Think about your dog, right? It'll walk right up, jump on the couch and shake whether they're wet or not. I mean, it's just that release. And I know Sean has practiced this, but for those of you out there listening, if you haven't ever felt kind of like Stan was describing on the computer, and just stopped in the middle of your office or gone outside and shaking like a dog, at worst, you're going to laugh at yourself. And I think that solves the issue, right? So I love that. I love that you said that. So if you had 2 minutes to set the tone from a human-centered leadership perspective with your team, with your business, with your organization for the entire week, how would you spend that 2 minutes of time? Unless somebody wants to jump in, Stan, we'll start with you. Sean, you want to go?
Well, I got an idea. I think
it,
you know what it
you
might
can't
be.
break it, right? There's no wrong answers.
We got 2 minutes to set the tone for a meeting or tone
for the
for
entire
a
week. For the
Okay.
entire week.
I'm going to say it'd be something physical. It would be some breathing together, some type of bringing, some type of, without it sounding woo-woo, some type of communal type feeling to where people feel connected. And breath really does help that. So just some simple breathing exercises. If you've got a team that, is open to it, closing the eyes, touch, having some type of connection physically is cool too. But the breathing and, even some type of voice action to it, to where maybe everybody's saying something similar or letting out, just releasing kind of thing. So that's I think that's what I would end up doing if I had 2 minutes to kind of set the tone and pace each week. That's what I do already.
Yeah, it is.
So,
it is. I've experienced that. And so I'm curious, maybe for listeners that are kind of thinking of that and saying, that sounds kind of woo-woo. Explain in layman's terms what the value or benefit is that. What would you go with that?
Well, there's definitely, I don't know, without it sounding woo-woo, I don't know how to explain it, but everything's vibrational. And if we can tune in, like what I had mentioned earlier about tuning to the room, tuning to the space that you're in, allowing others the time and space to tune to it also, you get, it's more human that way. And it feels good.
Yeah. Energetically, right? I mean, to sound
Yeah.
woo-woo, there's just a truer sense of genuine connection in that moment, right? That it can allow for. Love it. Deirdre, what would you add to that? 2 minutes to lead your week.
So I'm going to stay along the same lines. I'll add to what Sean said with, I just did a leadership retreat and we started off with breathing and humming, where there were 35 senior team leaders breathing and humming, which is a way to warm up your voice, but also it's a way to calm the system and to increase the energy. And then we did a focus exercise. And I had them doing an exercise where it's tap, stop, name, clap, snap, wave. And I would have them do it in a different sequence, but then I would say, when I say stop, you tap. And when I say tap, you stop. And when I say name, you clap. And when I say clap, you say the name of the company. And it was just such a wonderful way for them to laugh and to try to stay focused and to do the actions together. And each exercise takes about 2 minutes.
I'm sure the choreography was spotless, right? With that.
Well, there were some mess ups, but the best part, they laughed about it and they had fun together. They were at times they could focus, but the last time we did it, everybody was on board, and that showed their.
I absolutely love that. Absolutely. Stan, what would you add?
Yeah, again, I like going last because it lets me listen and try to kind of connect dots. I think the theme here is helping people be human beings and not human doings, right? And so for 2 minutes, let's get out of the doing measurable mode and more back into the being mode. We've heard a lot of great things here. I think anything too that allows you to share a story, right? Stories help us connect on that emotional level, build trust, that kind of thing. So gives folks a chance to share a story, or you're sharing a personal story. Again, something maybe you've learned in the last week. Again, it can be a success, anything along those lines, something you're excited about. For me, recently, my daughter got engaged, right? So suddenly, just by sharing that, notice how all of a sudden, to use Sean's terms, the vibration sort of changes, right? Because all of us have been in different spaces of engagement and seeing friends get engaged, our own engagement, or our children's engagement. And that just evokes the being and not just the doing.
Right on.
Yeah, I love it. And all of that captures so well in that human-centered approach to leadership. You think about Sean's point around breathing. You bring a group of people together, and now we're going to label it woo-woo because we're asking people to take a breath together, which is something they're doing on their own all day long, right? We tell somebody a funny joke and they laugh hysterically, but we ask them to come together with a group of 35 execs and act silly, then all of a sudden there's something taboo about that. We as children will tell anybody anytime, including the stranger in the grocery store, "Mister, tell me a story." Yet as we get older, we forget the power in those things, and how telling somebody that their daughter just got engaged sent shivers through the other 3 people on this call, because we want to all say, "Congratulations, Stan, that's an amazing time in her life," right? Yeah. And so I think sometimes we so overcomplicate this world when it comes down to that human element. And I love the fact that you guys were able to bring such simplicity to this call and this conversation. So again, I appreciate everybody's time. I know we could probably go on and on for hours, and maybe we'll reformat the show at some point. But today we're going to call it a not goodbye, but a see you later. Thanks everybody for joining us here on YouTube. Be sure to check us out on LinkedIn every Thursday, noon Central, for new episodes. And the YouTube versions will always drop a little bit longer shortly thereafter. Thanks again. We'll see you soon. That's a wrap for another edition of Inspired Action, the Leadership Forecast. We're so grateful for our guests today and the impact they're making with the work they do. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel to watch the longer version of this episode, and be sure to like, comment, connect with, and follow me and each of our guests. You'll find all of our links in the caption of this video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in every Thursday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for new episodes.